Come with me and tour small town Blountsville, Alabama in the heart of the Deep South. We're going to start our day walking through an old cemetery with grave sites dating back to 1800, and then we're going to go over to Blountsville Historical Park where we'll get to tour some of the old cabins, old barn, old post office, and jail, and get to hear the whole story about how Blountsville came to be. And then once we leave there, we're going to head over to Swann Covered Bridge, a beautiful covered bridge. We can walk down to the river. We had a really good time. It was a fun-filled day, and I cannot wait to share it with you. So come on, let's go. Hey y'all, and good morning. We are headed out of the house today on a little bit of an adventure, if you will, and I wanted to bring you along. Before we head out, I wanted to come out here, make sure everybody had water, and I got some more fake eggs to put in the coops for a couple of reasons. I'm gonna check to see if there's any eggs in here right now. I've been trying to check a couple of times a day. We checked pretty late last night, so I don't know if there'll be any in here, but we're gonna look. I'm gonna put these fake eggs in, like I said, for a couple of reasons. Since we redid the coops and put them together, but connected them, put them side by side and connected them, I want them to know that they can lay in this coop as well. So, you know, they're so used to this one. I want them to know that they can lay in this one too. So I'm gonna put some of these in there. And we're also still trying to correct the issue of a couple of them eating eggs. So if they peck at these and can't get nothing from them, maybe it'll encourage them to leave them alone. We're headed to Blountsville, Alabama today. There is a really neat historical park there. There's some old cabins that were moved there, and old barns, and some old homes, old post office, jail, all kinds of things that have been moved there and set up. It's really neat, and we're gonna go there. I'm taking the kids with me. It's gonna be a little bit of a field trip day today. I wanted to be sure to bring y'all along because y'all have really seemed to enjoy visiting our small town and some other small towns here close to us, seeing these places, visiting some local businesses, talking to some people. Y'all seem to have really enjoyed that, and I have really enjoyed sharing it with you, so I wanted to bring you along today. Well, animals are taken care of, morning chores are done, kids are loaded up in the car. Come and explore small town rural Alabama with us today.
Where are we going, Mom?
We are going to Blountsville. Spring Valley Beach is one of the things that Blountsville's kind of known for, and it started more or less just being a big pond that everybody went to swim in. And then over the years, the family has expanded it, and now it's a full water park. People come from pretty good ways to come to the water park. I worked there as a lifeguard one summer when I was a teenager, and I can remember people calling and saying, "I'm trying to find you, but you know, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Are we going the right way?" They'd be like, "Yeah, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're probably going the right way." So this water park is out in the middle of nowhere, but people come to it, and it's continuing to grow. We've not been in the last couple of years because we've had little babies, but maybe next summer we'll get us a season pass again. We'll have to see.
Hashtag take us to Spring Valley, okay? That's all we think. Spring Valley Beach down in the comments.
We'll go to the water park one day. They're not open right now.
They're closed.
This cemetery here is where Justin's pops is buried. I see that. Wyatt, this is who you're named after. Harland. Yep. A lot of these over here on this side are so old, even up on that hill, that they're just stones. Some of these have writing on them. I don't know if you can read it. I can tell some of these. Like this one, I can tell it has writing on it, but I think it says 1875.
Huh?
Yeah, died September 30th, 1875. Born, let's say, Berta Lee. Can kind of read this one. I know it says born February, I think it says February 3rd, 1874. Died September 30th, 1875. How long ago was that?
100 years.
It was more than that. It was like probably closer to, well, probably closer to 150. There's one of those that you can read right there. They were a year old when they died, but it was in 1875. So that's been almost 150 years ago. What does that say? J.S. Brooks. I can tell this one says died 1862. Well, it says Elizabeth. Born 1815. Died 1862.
Yeah.
Born in 1800.
Come on.
Yeah, we'll walk down the steps. Yeah, hold your hand. Hold hands.
Hey, I'm Mark Thompson. I'm the host here at Blountsville Historical Park.
Hi. Oh, wow.
Well, I'm standing here by our sign that shows Old Bear Meat Cabin Road. Now, Bear Meat Cabin Road started up at Ditto Landing up by Huntsville at the Tennessee River. North of the Tennessee River was the Mississippi Territory at the time, 1800. And then again, it was divided. It was the Mississippi Territory down by Mobile, but Mobile was still in the Spanish control. But there was a small portion down there called the Mississippi Territory. Everything in between was Indian land. The wild frontier, as Davy Crockett would say it. And around 1800, the Creeks were tired of the incursions of the white men into their territory, which this was the road to. They started making war. Now, Bear Meat started taking care of this road when he was a young man. His village was called Wasawi, when it's about 8 miles north of here. But it was Cherokee territory, which he was, and this is Creek territory. So he was kind of in on the invasion too. But Bear Meat was our favorite hero because he's the only person that the white people knew. And this area became known as Bear Meat's Cabin.
I saw something that said this is the original location of this house, correct? the brick, but there was a storm maybe and it had to be rebuilt.
In 1919, they rebuilt. It was a two-story building, and then in 1919 it blew pretty much the whole thing down, and then they salvaged the whole brick and built back one floor, and they put in windows because it just had shutters before. And that's when they put the front porch on the front because the new highway was being built at that time. So they stopped using this road, and it became just like waving through pastures and stuff and crossing 231. And then they started using that road up there.
What are y'all building here?
This is going to be our general store.
Nice.
Ever since I become a member, they were talking about the general store, and we found two cabins, old cabins that we could move and could use, and it fell through both times. And so we decided that if we want it to happen,
we have to build it. Most of these buildings were moved here though, correct?
Right. This one on the end wasn't, and the church wasn't. The others had been moved here.
Was the barn moved here as well?
Yes. That's the Childers Barn. It came from Skyball Mountain, if you know where that is. 160 and Highway 26. There's a mountain ridge that runs between those roads, and that is Skyball Mountain. Highway 11 and Joy Road run over it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We're kids, 16, 17, something like that, because they were the ones that were strong, could leave home. And so there was one particular one named Ebenezer Hearn. After the war, he went home to Nashville, got ordained, did his studying, and came back here. They sent him back here to Blountsville on a circuit route because this was a new land, and he knew it. So they sent him here to Blountsville, and inside the chapel here we have a painting at Bear Meat Cabin. Now Ebenezer went on to form 12 Methodist churches here in Alabama, and he also started an Indian mission school for his friend Bear Meat. So this little door here was a cherry tree in one of our members' yards, and when lightning hit it, they salvaged it and made doors out of it.
It's beautiful.
This was our meeting house for a short period of time before we renovated the Freeman House, which is the brick building.
Yes.
And now it's being used by the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The William Graves, which we have his cabin.
Yes,
here.
yes, I saw that, yes.
So it's named after him because some of the descendants are members.
Is this the picture?
Yes, that's Ebenezer Bear Meat Cabin. Now that's not too accurate of a depiction of a cabin. It was, what I understand, it was just a one-room cabin. Oh. And Ebenezer, I did a speaking engagement about Ebenezer not too long ago, and he said when he came through here the first time, there were no white people in this area. And he said, but when he came back after being ordained, and he got to what they call Bear Meat Cabin, he said there were at least 10 white settlers built cabins there.
Just in the time from when he had been here last.
These are the first white people he saw since he left Huntsville. So pretty much this was the first place settled between Huntsville and Mobile.
Yes.
You know, we didn't have the plantations and the antebellum stuff through the Civil War, but it was still important enough for the Union troops to come in and burn.
Yes. Come on, boys.
I'm not going to like you. So, other famous Tennessee volunteers that you may not expect or have heard of, Sam Houston was with this group. And of course, Andrew Jackson was in charge. Cherokee Indians were part of the Tennessee Volunteers. Sequoia and Bear Meat were both Tennessee Volunteers. Now, when Bear Meat went to Andrew Jackson and said, hey, I want to go with you, I want to help you fight for your cause, because the Cherokees fought against the Americans in the Revolutionary War. And a lot of Andrew Jackson's family were killed by Cherokees. So he wasn't happy about that. And Bear Meat said, well, I can speak Cherokee, I can speak Creek,
be a help to you.
I can speak English, I'm a good trapper, I can track. And Andrew Jackson said, no, I can't tell you from another Indian, you just get killed. And Bear Meat said, now wait, I can identify myself. I'm going to put a deer tail in my bonnet. It's big, it's white, tell friend from foe, and all the other Indian allies did the same. I have a picture of Sequoia with his deer tail in his bonnet. And last weekend I just went down to Fort Strother, which is where they went to after here, the Tennessee Volunteers.
Look at all this cool
So
stuff.
this stuff came from Blunt Springs, the resort there. They have 5 different types of mineral water that boil out of the ground there. It's not really hot, but it bubbles out of the ground. And for years and years and years, they thought it was a good thing to drink that water to make it better. But so they started a resort, and they found out the mineral water really wasn't helpful. So they went to gambling and alcohol. The train from Birmingham came twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Where present day 31 was the train track. There was no good road there except for Bear Meat Cabin Road. So they had a band that met the train when it arrived, had dances every night. They had a chef in New York City that made fine gourmet meals, and it was the place to be.
Made it a whole experience.
People from Huntsville came, people from Tuscaloosa came in Birmingham. So this right here, boys, you want to turn this right here? That is what you call a bellows, which it blows air. And you need to blow air on hot coals to get it red hot, where you can put your metal in there. When your metal gets red hot, you can beat it and shape it. It gets softer.
Philip, put your hand in front of it.
That over there on the table is a store scale. We have a ceramic bowl that would go in that oval.
The bottom part of it?
Yeah. And whatever you bought would be put on that little scale, and it would weigh it and tell you the price at the top.
The grocery store scales have
That's
come a
when
long
prices
way.
didn't change a lot.
Yeah, it didn't change day by day. Is that corn cobs?
Yeah, they used them for handles for their stuff that was, kind of small to hold.
Like, is that a file, I guess?
Right. 1812 was older, and the Creeks made peace with Andrew Jackson down at Fort Jackson near Wetumpka. This land was ceded to the United States and became open for settlement for everybody who wanted to come. But the first choice of the land was given to the Tennessee Volunteers because that was their payment for their service in war. And so that's why they named their town Blountsville, after Governor Blunt, who got them together in Tennessee. So they named the county first, and then the town became Blountsville. There is another Blount County in North Carolina and Tennessee, named after the same man, Governor Blunt of Tennessee.
Well, that's neat.
He was a surveyor before he became governor. So this right here was built by Mr. Graves, which is kind of obvious. He was a Tennessee volunteer, and this is the first building he built when he got here to Blountsville. It was down on Joy Road.
Yes. Bless you.
But it was more important for him to get something to eat. So he was working on his fields, and just a little piece of a house would do until he found him a wife and started the family. So he lived in this for several years until he got his farm established. And so he found him a wife, and they had a child, Captain William Graves of the Confederate Home Guard here in Blountsville. And his son became mayor, constable, and postmaster here in Blountsville. And then their grandchildren and grandchildren still live here, and they're members of our group. The Confederate flag is in here because it's dedicated to William Graves, who was a captain in the Blountsville Home Guard.
Can you see yourself living in a cabin this size?
Granted, he would only come in here.
Yeah, he was working. Yes. Didn't spend much time.
Potbelly stove. We don't have a potbelly stove, but he had to have some kind of source to eat. A pouch made out of tree bark. An Indian probably made that. And this is a berry basket made in the same way. It's got a little stick skeleton and then tree bark out on the outside to keep the berries from falling out. So there's equipment in here too. But this is the old jail. Now it sat down downtown Blountsville behind the courthouse, so it was pretty much like an outdoor cell. The sheriff's office was in the courthouse, so this was just a freestanding cell. Up here, you see these boards going sideways? Well, they got metal bars going all the way down, all the way around. And they repurposed the bars. They had bars in the windows. Boys, this is what we call a skeleton key. Now you use this key on both sides of the door. So there was a hole on both sides of the door for it to go in. You unlocked it this way to get in, but to lock it, you had to stick it back in and lock it. So that's how that worked. And they called them skeleton key because you could see through that hole. And it kind of looked like a skeleton head. So this one originally came from Tennessee. Down here in the 1960s by a private family. And it sat down there where the library is. And then when they built the library, it had to go somewhere.
So it's been moved twice.
Right, so we moved it up here from downtown. That was around 2000. And it's a great example of what a typical cabin in that time period would look like. Because it's a small square, it has some type of opening on each wall for ventilation. And then it has a sleeping loft, but you can only stand up in the center because of the roof incline. All the kids upstairs to sleep. Mom and Dad would roll out pallets down here.
In the living area.
If they have a baby, they could take the baby would stay down here. And so they would have some peaceful time by themselves. So this is how they cooked when they were cooking in here in the winter. They have these swing arms. So you can stir your pot and dip out of it. Serve, whatever. And the way they did this was rather than start a new dish every time, they just keep the old stuff in there and just
adding to it.
And that way you can use your spices and your rendering.
I guess that's where the kids would go up to the sleeping loft.
And the next building has one of them, similar but stairs, because it's a bigger house. Okay, this one's called the Chambly Cabin. Now, after the Indian lands came open for settlement, there was something called the Alabama Land Rush. And because Alabama was a new frontier, it came open around 1815, 18, and so this was the first part of the Indian Territory settled. But when the Indian removal happened, it really happened, the Great Alabama Land Rush, and thousands of people came here by the droves for the virgin land. They didn't know to rotate crops because so the land that they planted the same thing over and over again
just depleted.
Well, it just didn't yield what it used to, and so they wanted virgin land. So these two brothers gathered up their family, the Chambly brothers, and moved from South Carolina. One of them built a house off of 26 and started a mill, and there's still a road there called
Chambly Mill Road. Yes.
The mill there. And this one was built on top of Skyball Mountain, and they lived about 3 miles walking from each other. But this Mr. Chambly, Eastham, had 9 children. So 11 people lived in this house. They did not have power on this side, but since this is the old house, a lot of families have lived in this house. The last family that lived in it built a kitchen onto it outside that door. And they put electricity in there, but they did not have electricity in here until it was moved to this location. But this is what it looked like up here when we got it at the top.
Oh, you can see the whole process.
And this is us putting it back together here. That's what it looked like over there at the bottom with the kitchen on it. And so it was in pretty bad shape. People aren't ready to give up their family heirlooms until, they just don't think they can take care of them anymore. So when we got it, the floors were no good, the ceiling was no good, you couldn't walk upstairs. So that stuff has been replaced. The outside walls are original, tin roof has been replaced. So really we just have a shell of the old building.
But it can still be enjoyed.
Yes. Now this right here is what we found underneath the building when we moved it.
Oh, wow. Come here, Wyatt. Come look. This is some of the old stuff they found when they moved it.
And you see shims in there? Now, nails are hard to find. And when you use
what he's
one,
talking about.
you want to make sure that nothing else would work.
Last resort.
So if something was kind of tight and you can make it a little tighter with a shim.
That's what you used.
Yeah. Not this house, but a lot of houses of this period had clay floors. You ever seen a clay floor house?
I haven't.
I've been blessed to see one. And the simple houses, small houses, of course. But you just have a clay floor, and you sweep it, and you put a rug on it, and you really can't tell because, after it's been wet a few times and swept, it's a pretty smooth surface. But when it did rain and you track water inside, it gets slippery. So what they would do is put hay or thresh on the floor, and it's hard to get. You didn't want to waste it. Just put a board across the door.
Ah, is that why it's called a threshold? It would hold the thresh inside.
Right.
Wow.
So another saying that you might have heard of, raining cats and dogs.
What's that?
Well, a lot of these same period houses had straw roofs, and animals would get in there to stay warm or whatever. And it rained hard, the same thing, get slippery, they'd fall through. And that's what they say.
The raining cats and dogs, because they literally fell through the roof.
And so that's why you have a covered bed, is to keep the straw out of your bed. Because it was falling whether it was raining or not, a little bit at a time.
Be on this side of the rope.
Rope suspended beds. So you tighten these ropes up and it's nice and firm, but as you sleep on it, they stretch out a little bit, and you kind of like a hammock, you'll roll to the middle. So there's a saying, sleep tight.
Yes.
Don't let the bed bugs bite. It's about tightening the ropes.
You're doing good. That's pretty how the stairs turn right there, isn't it?
Cap lock. Because you put percussion cap right there, and then when you pull the trigger, it would hit that. There was a match lock where you had a little rope that you would light, and light that with the powder pan. So that is the evolution. Oh, this is the Brooksville Post Office. It's the first freestanding post office for Brooksville. They did have one in the general store, but this one was built in 1911. A family, the Barnes family, had the contract from the United States Postal Service to operate this post office. This is Miss Minnie Barnes. She was postmaster for 37 years, and her son for another 19. Had a few other postmasters in between, but it was the Barnes post office. It sat on their property. They must have had some kind of break in it at one time. It kind of sat out by itself. They put bars on the windows. It's pretty much like it was. It did have one electric light there. It had a pot-bellied stove for heat. And it must have been an outhouse somewhere nearby. At that time, only Great Britain had stamps. So we didn't have stamps in the United States. So what you did, there were no zip codes, there were nothing. All you needed to know was the guy's name and where he lived, what town he lived. And you didn't have an envelope, so you fold up the paper and then you drip some wax on the seal to make it sealed.
Yes.
And mail it. Now, if you knew you were going to get a letter or you checked your mail regular, they would hold it for you at the post office when you came by. And you would pay the postage on that letter when you picked it up, which you were really happy to do because it was the only news from the outside world that you were getting. Now they did have routes, short routes. Mr. Graves, I got a picture of him in the museum in his postal buggy with a horse. It's his little buggy. The places nearby that he could go to the museum. 4th of July, we have a celebration here every year. We got more people. The descendants of the signers of the Declaration of Independence ring the replica Liberty Bells at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Time every 4th of July. So all over the country, bells are ringing simultaneously at 12 noon. Here it is at 1 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock we ring our bell by a descendant. And then we have watermelon, homemade ice cream, apple pie, lemonade, and bluegrass music. Ceremony up here, chairs out here, and then sing the national anthem, and then we move to the back. Now this is stuff about Blountsville.
Hello?
Here's Mr. Graves and his postal wagon. The Civil War battle scene right here. How you do, sir?
Good.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Look at those old pictures. And that's an old camera. Well, that ended up being a blessing. We got here and the gentleman with the Historical Society, oh goodness, was here, and he was able to walk us through, let us in the buildings, talk to us and share all the information. So that ended up being a blessing. I thought I might could just bring you and show you around and tell you the little bit that I knew about the buildings, but to have him here to share his wealth of knowledge was such a blessing. When we were leaving, he had told us that we should go down here to this covered bridge. And I've been on this road before, but I don't know that I've ever been down to this covered bridge. So we thought we would ride down there and look at it. It is absolutely beautiful right here. Swann Covered Bridge is actually in Cleveland, if I remember correct, so just outside of Blountsville, still in Blount County. And to get to this, you would turn on Joy Road in Blountsville, and then a few miles down that road, you turn onto Swann Bridge Road. And you can't access the bridge by vehicle anymore. You can pull right down to it, and then you can walk out on the bridge. There's a nice area where you can get down to the water. This is on the Locust Fork of the Black Warrior River. Absolutely gorgeous. I believe this is the first time I'd ever been to this covered bridge. There's several covered bridges in Coleman County and in Blount County. This is the first time I have been to this one that I can recall, but we will definitely be back. Beautiful area to get down to the water. The kids played in the water. We had a great time. Yes, please be careful. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, it was huge. It was a lizard, though. I saw 4 legs.
Oh, yeah. You see it there?
Money, y'all ready, bro? I think that landed at the
I don't know if you can see him or not. Right there.
What do you got over here? That lizard. Where?
The majestic lizard.
Oh, that one did good. Whoa.
You got that.
Did the dinosaur make it to the water? It's okay. Well, I think the covered bridge is going to be our last stop for today. I hope you enjoyed seeing Blountsville, Alabama with us. Some of y'all had mentioned that maybe I could start branching out a little bit further. You know, I've shown you some places close to my town, my little small town, and some other small towns that are close. If you have any suggestions that are within driving distance, let me know. Maybe I can go start checking out some new places. Several of y'all had mentioned that. Go find some other little small towns and show us around. There's still places here that I can't wait to show you as well. Thank you for being with us today. I love you. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.
Bye, though.